make sure this is on here because thing has been doing some weird things. Okay, there it is. Yay, we are live. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to let you guys start to kind of trickle in so that you don't miss all of this great content that we have for you today. And I just really want to make sure that you get the information that you need. So I'm going to let you guys kind of come on in. I hope everybody is doing well. I know not too long ago we had Hurricane Ian that came through some different areas and affected some people. Thankfully, it bypassed Savannah and we didn't have major damage or major issues. We did not have to evacuate. Sometimes that has been one of the things that happens with us. We didn't have to do that. I know, Dr. Williams, you guys are in South Carolina. There were some areas in South Carolina that were affected. Were you guys affected by any of that?
Thankfully, no. Not in the area I live at, which is right outside of Charlotte, but I do know Charleston, Myrtle Beach, some of those more coastal areas, they did get a lot of rain.
Okay.
But thankfully not in this area that I'm in.
Okay, good. I know that I'm trying to think. One of the days we were predicted to get a lot of rain. We got just a little bit. The next day it was like beautiful sunshine. My daddy called me. He said, "Hey, how's it going? How y'all doing?" I was like, "We're actually doing all right." So,
Mhm.
so I was like, I'm very thankful about that. But let's go ahead and get started and get into it because I don't want to hold people too long today. If you have questions, please make sure that you put your questions in the comments. If we don't catch them today, if you find out that you have questions later, then go ahead and put them in there. If you are watching, I have no idea who you are, so thank you so much for joining. But if you want to just put a shout out, a hey, how you doing, whatever in the comments, that way I can say hey, to let you know that I am excited for you guys to be here. As you know, Lessons Beyond the Stethoscope, here we basically are providing tips and tools that you can use in your everyday life because what we know is life affects your health. Like I talk to people all the time and they're just like, I'm just doing life. It's just life and life happens. But when life is happening, it is also affecting your health. And so I want to give you some great tips and tools that you can use to kind of navigate life and make sure that your health and everything stays on track. Today, we are on episode 2, setting your child up, excuse me, episode 3 actually, setting your child up for success, a pediatrician's perspective. And today we have joining us Dr. Jennifer Williams. And she is a board certified pediatrician who currently lives in the Fort Mill, South Carolina area. She's living there with her husband and her 3 beautiful daughters. And she is also, though, a native of Florence, South Carolina. Now, let me tell y'all something. When I first met Dr. Williams, she sold Florence as like this little teeny bitty town. She was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just from Florence. Oh, yeah, you ain't nothing in Florence. It's just little old Florence." I had a chance to kind of go through Florence because we got off. We were traveling somewhere and we got off. I said, "Oh, let's go to Florence. That way I can tell Jennifer I went and I can see how it looks." We get off of the Florence exit. I see a Chick-fil-A and out in a mall. And so for me, I said, "Oh, this isn't like what she said. Somebody didn't tell the whole story." I feel like I've been bamboozled or something because from where I'm from, the mall is Walmart. Okay. And so when I saw this Chick-fil-A in the mall, I said, "No, okay." But it
It's a small mall, but it's a mall.
but you got one.
You
You
have
got
one. And you
you
know
got
airport. Before you. That's it.
so, anyways, but she attended the illustrious
Yeah.
Winston-Salem State University, where she received her Bachelor's of Science degree. After that, she went on to medical school at MUSC, that's the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. And then she completed her training in pediatrics at the University of Mississippi Medical Center in Jackson, Mississippi. Now, outside of mothering and doctoring and all those sorts of things, she also enjoys in her free time traveling and enjoying good food and things of that nature and just spending time with her family. So, you guys, please welcome today Dr. Jennifer Williams. So, Dr. Williams, we were talking, and I was talking to you about, I said, what kind of like are the things that you talk about a lot to your parents? And I know that you see children a lot, and we talk about coughs and colds and reaching milestones and things of that nature. But you said the other thing that I really wish I had more time to talk to parents about is like that journey of their educational journey, how to support them on that, some other things that go along with that whole journey, and what we can do with it to make sure that their kid not only meets these other milestones, but they are able to support their child where they want them to go. And I think one of the easiest ways for us to do that is to just take that journey from birth and little bitties all the way up till they get to those college years. So, one of the things that we hear a lot about, especially with birth and preschool and toddlers, is reading and how important it is to read to your child. When it comes to reading, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how long should a parent read to their child? How beneficial is it? Give us your perspective on that.
So literacy is the foundation of communication, So reading is extremely important in the early years. Children, their brain is just rapidly developing. So much has happened in those first few months, honestly, all the way up until they're 3. Those are the very crucial years. They're not speaking as much. And so we think sometimes they're not listening, but they're listening to everything that we say. And that's the foundation of their speech. So, you know, as busy working parents, it's not always easy to read to your children, but it's very important. Just 20 minutes a day can make a world of difference for a lifetime of their brain development and pushing them forward in their test scores. There's a lot of research out there that just shows that if you start to read to your child early, it will make a huge difference in their success going forward.
That's great. That's a great point, because I also heard you say communication, and you're right, because they start babbling, they start saying a
Mm-hmm.
few things. You're like, what? What did you say? Like we're not quite understanding exactly what they're saying,
Yeah.
but continuing to reinforce that and just continuing to read. And like you said, over time, they go from this little babble to full conversations. You're like, oh wow, like now you're picking these things up and you're saying these things. So
Mm-hmm.
you are absolutely right. That information is just soaking in and is helping them to develop those skills. When they, with a parent who's trying to figure out the types of resources to use for them, like reading and things of that nature, where can they find them? Like we know, like the library and things like that, but where else can they get some reading material?
So one of the places, actually, your pediatrician's office. I know in our office we have a program. It's called Reach Out and Read, and so we have to do. It's really not a long process, but there's a certain certification they ask us to do, and we get free books for our office. And at every wellness visit, we give our patients a free book. So if your current pediatrician isn't doing that, you can, let them know about the program. They can do what's required, and it's a free program for everyone. So potentially your pediatrician's office, they can offer some books. Believe it or not, your local Goodwill. So I like to do a little bit of thrift shopping every now and again. And I noticed there's a lot of books in there. When kids are getting older, parents are trying to clean things out and they don't want to throw away books. And so they send them to Goodwill. So look at your local Goodwill as well. There's another program. It's called Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, and it's also another free program. You can sign up online, and they will send you free books monthly from birth until up about 5 years of age. So a lot of really good resources out there.
Oh, that's great. I did not know about the one for the pediatrician's office.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the name of that one again. I'm gonna put it in the chat so people can have it, but I'll also post this information for people later who would want it.
It's called Reach Out and Read.
Reach out and read.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So that's one. And then we also mentioned, you said the Dolly Parton
Mm-hmm.
imagination. That's a good one, because we actually participated in that one, and they send out some great books, and I believe they do it monthly. You get one book a month that's age appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
and they're great books, and they are books that have come out recently, and your child is just going to absolutely enjoy it. So do the Dolly Parton
Mm-hmm.
imagination. I'm
Yes.
trying to learn how to spell here, guys, and spell and type at the um, to
Another
do
good
that.
resource too is to ask for books as gifts. So I did that with my third child. I had so many toys. I already, my third girl, I didn't really need as much for my third pregnancy. And so I said, hey, if you want to give me something, give me a book. So I have even more books now because over time, as you reuse them, as you know, with kids, they tear them up, they color in them. So it's always nice to have some fresh books and you can just ask for gifts. Even when they're 3, 4, 5, 6, and on up, you can say, hey, thanks for the toy, but you can also give me a book too.
That's perfect. I love that because you're right. Sometimes people are like, "Well, what should I give them?" I feel like they may have all the things, but you
Mhm.
can never have too many books because they're going to give you different perspectives and they're going to be able to the child is going to enjoy the book. The parents are going to enjoy the books because there's some books that I read. I was like, "Oh, this is so interesting. Let's keep reading. Let's keep going. Let's find out what else is going to
Yeah.
happen." So that's wonderful. Now, once we have read to them and now they're getting into that school age era. Now we're getting into not only school things and homework and all of that, we're also getting into extracurricular activities. What should I put my child in and all of that sort of thing. So when it comes to homework, let's kind of start there since we talked about books. With homework, how important is it to help with the homework and how should you approach that situation?
So it is extremely important for parents to be involved in what's going on in the classroom. So I feel like I'm in school again. I have a third grader. And so, every day I go through her agenda to make sure I know when her tests are coming up.
Mm,
I understand, let me see your homework papers, because even if they're doing it sometimes at school or in the after school program, someone
mm.
may not be reviewing it as they should. And I've picked up a lot of mistakes, or I want to make sure my child understood what was going on and not an adult told her, well, this is how you do it. So the work may be done, but it's important to go back behind them to ensure that they do understand the concepts. Um, and the homework is different from some of the things we've been used to. The math has changed. Some of the tactics used for reading and science and so forth, things have changed. So, don't feel bad, parents, if you're frustrated essentially and you don't know what's going on. Just kind of go through it with your student. You can reach out to the teacher and say, hey, can you explain why my child got this question wrong? Because the answer is right, and that's what's happening too. But the process that they have to use to show their work may not get them the credit. So just be in tune with the teacher and kind of what's going on. But helping them out is so important.
So even if I have a third grader too, even if I don't like third grade math, I still listen. I realized I wasn't the only one because when I went to pick my child up from school, I heard another mom said the daughter was coming out and she said, "Hey mom, so I got homework." She said, "What kind of homework do you have?" And she said, "Math." And her mom like rolled her eyes and was like, "You gotta be kidding me." And I was like, I'm so happy I'm not alone. I actually was okay in math, but this new math, I was like, why can't it still be old? Because with the old, I can tell you 8 plus 2 is 10. But
Mhm.
now we have to say 5 plus 5 gets to 10. And we have to show all of this stuff. So, but even though I'm not a huge fan of it, I still should get in there, communicate with the teacher, make sure I understand. And that's the other thing, honestly, is that I realized too, like you said, that the answer may be right, but the process could be wrong. So being able to touch bases with the teacher and say, hey, how do I do that? What should I do? Kind of walk me through this is a great tip because I had to do that myself. The other thing, what about extracurricular activities? So now they are becoming they're wanting to do other things outside
Yeah.
of just school.
Yeah.
How do we hone in on what they really enjoy and how do we support that?
So extracurricular activities, like you mentioned, they're important. It's good for team building, their own self-esteem to feel like they can try something new and succeed at it. Um, and so I'm speaking to the busy working parents because I'm one. So it's like a personal struggle for me. But for my kids, we can only do one activity at a time. So this year we've chosen dance. Last year, my daughter, she got to participate in softball. She liked it, but not enough that she went to do it again. And so just try to allow your child to have different experiences and even things they wouldn't think about. You say, oh, you know what? Let's try karate or coding or jujitsu. There are a lot of things, horseback riding. You don't have to stick with the traditional kind of sports and that's it. Your child may be interested in piano. So look into the arts. You can do cooking classes, but don't get frustrated. This is the big one too. Don't get frustrated if your child does something 1 year and then you buy all this equipment and they don't want to do it again. So don't force your child to do something that they're no longer interested in. We all should have the opportunity to explore different interests and not be stuck in one thing or feel bad because, hey, I actually wasn't good at tennis. So now I want to do swimming. And speaking of swimming, that's actually a life skill. I think everyone should learn how to swim. It could save a life. So if your child hasn't had any swimming experience and you need an extracurricular activity, I would start with swimming lessons. That's a really good one to have.
Okay. With that, I want to ask you about when you said you bought all the things and now the kid is not into it. So, how should a parent kind of approach some of these activities? Should they go all in and buy all the things first, or should they buy like the basics, see how it goes, and then go from there?
I would just buy the basics. You can also buy a lot of things secondhand. A lot of times,
Mm.
your neighborhood, if you ask around, people have old equipment. I know in my neighborhood group, people are always posting things in like our neighborhood sale page for sale page. So you can just post, say, hey, anybody have an extra glove if they're interested in softball or cleats or whatever it may be. So I wouldn't go all in with the most expensive thing until you know this is something this child really enjoys. You can also pass it to other family members. Look at your local Goodwill. They have some stores that have like a play it again kind of store. And you can find secondhand things. And that's the same thing for a musical instrument. You don't have to buy a brand new instrument. There are places where you can rent just for a time period, or you can find something secondhand.
I love those ideas because you have these moments where the kid is super excited, and sometimes the kid is excited. You talk to them a little bit longer, you figure out that they have a friend that's
Mhm.
participating in that
Yeah.
activity. And then the friend is either no longer doing it, or the friend is doing really well and really enjoys it. And the kid is like, this is not my thing. So, kind of taking that basics approach, I love that. That way, you have enough of what you need, and then you can kind of build onto it from there. Now, after we get into these extracurricular activities, they're starting to grow up. We get it into the middle school years.
Yes.
I know some parents, and I hear a lot of people like, oh, teenagers. Like we give the poor little teenagers such a hard time. Like I just do teenagers. I can't do teenagers. Like, but I know that what but there are a lot of changes that
Yeah.
are happening with the teenagers. So I want you to kind of talk about that, some of the changes that are happening, but then some of the things that they are experiencing either at school and how that's affecting them, such as like bullying and their mental health.
Yes. So the teenager years are also a very critical, pivotal point in their lives, right? So you kind of made it through the elementary age. You're like, okay, my child is on a good path. They're doing well in school. They're in extracurricular activities, and then all of a sudden they change on you. You're like,
Mm,
it's not my child. Or sometimes you can even think back to when you were a teenager and you can remember a kid, you like, they were a good kid, but now what happened to them? Like something shifted. Okay. And so with the hormonal changes, all the pressures they have now with the internet and phones, we didn't have those things in the previous generation.
mm,
So kids are mean. They can do a lot of things anonymously. They can post embarrassing pictures, text messages. You think something's private, you send it out. Now everybody sees it. It's a lot more pressure than these days than what we experience. So I've definitely seen the rates of depression going up. A lot of kids are anxious. A lot of kids, they just don't have the coping skills that I feel they need to kind of get through some of these things. A lot of embarrassing moments are happening and it's the end of the world. You know, they don't know what to do. They feel like they can't talk to anyone.
mm,
So in our clinic, and most pediatric clinics, they should be doing some type of depression screening, and we can pick up some things there. And so after we have the visit, I look at my paper and I say, oh, I had no idea this child was feeling
mm,
down and depressed every day, that they had thoughts of suicidal thoughts, or they had a suicidal attempt. So definitely bring your child into their yearly wellness visit, because you may not know, and looking
mm.
at a child, you may not be able to tell that they're struggling. And when they are struggling, as a parent, you have to be receptive to say, hey, maybe it would not be a bad idea to get them into therapy or counseling. If, check with your insurance. Believe it or not, you can do some virtual counseling if need be. Some of the schools have therapists there.
Mm.
In our office, we thankfully have a therapist, and some patients are able to get in locally through our office. So bullying is just so big right now. Depression is real. Suicide is real. It's the third most common cause of
Mm.
deaths right now when kids age 15 to about 24. So it's a really big thing going on right now. So if your child is saying, I'm hurting, I thought about hurting myself, believe them, because kids are attempting, and girls attempt more than boys, and boys are more likely to succeed. That can be from guns, from hanging, from pills. There's so many different avenues that kids are just silently taking their lives. They write notes, and then you had no idea.
How, when it goes to that with the mental health, how can a parent, are there signs? One of my questions, because like you said, sometimes you may not notice it, and like you bring them into their wellness visit, they may either feel more comfortable and tell the pediatrician, or when they fill out the questionnaire, it picks up, it tells you, oh, this is like really concerning. We really need to address this. But are there some physical signs that could be happening that the parents should start trying to pay attention to?
Yes, that's a very good question. So if your child is normally outgoing, bubbly, it's very easy to pick up on those, right? So
Right.
they just seem a little withdrawn. If they used to hang out with certain friends, they're like, no, I just rather stay home. I don't want to go to the movies. Like, you don't want to go to the movies. That's not like you. You don't want to go to the amusement park or whatever it is. If you notice their activities are changing, um, a big one too is how they're dressing. Sometimes they just aren't keeping up themselves like they should, wearing a lot of hoodies, which is a hard one because a lot of
Mm.
kids choose to wear hoodies. But if your child never really wore big baggy clothes, and they just don't seem to be putting a lot of effort into their image anymore, they prefer to stay in their room. They just seem sad or quiet, don't really have much to say. Those are kind of signs to pick up. But what can be tricky too, there are a lot of kids who are actually cutting themselves.
Mm.
So in the wintertime, it's pretty easy to hide. You have on long sleeves and pants. But underneath, even in my exam, I may not catch it, but underneath, they're cutting their arms, their inner thighs. They're cutting, under just any place that they can kind of put their arms down or put their legs down. You're not seeing under their panty lines or underwear lines, right in
Mm.
there. Some kids can cut. And that's a way of them coping. So they may not be the kid that's drinking or smoking, but cutting is also a really big thing going on right now. And so, in general, just checking in with your child. So, we always say, oh, they're just being teenagers, or this is just their hormones, but it's still important to have dates with your kids. And, you say, hey, let's just go get some ice cream. Just no pressure. How's it going? And this shouldn't be a once every 6 months. This should be something a little more routine, so they don't think anything of like you're just trying to pry
Mm.
into their lives. It should be something that you've already adapted over time, and it would give them an opportunity. If they have something on their chest, maybe they'll let it out. They'll let you know, actually, I have been holding this and stuff, and it's hurting. And if you feel like you can't do that with your child, then maybe a trusted adult. It might be the aunt or the uncle or the older cousin.
Mm.
You take them out sometime and see if they may be, more open or receptive to opening up to another adult.
I love those tips, especially the cutting, because it's such a silent thing, it's such a quiet thing. A lot of people don't pick up on it, they don't notice it. And like you said, now kids are able to do it in other areas where they're really hiding it, or you're not really able to see it. But having those dates with your kids and those check-in moments that are no pressure, I'm just checking in to see how you're doing, I think will really open up those lines of communication, so you'll know the next step of what you should do, and what, who you need to reach out to, if that's the pediatrician, if that's the therapist, to
Mhm.
get them the help and assistance that they need. I love that. So after we've gone through middle school, we've done all those things, the next big moment is high school. And
Yes.
high school is now career readiness. And I know we talked about like some anxiety and things of that nature in middle school, but I know a lot of kids can start to get anxious in high school, because now they say, oh, what's next? Oh, I got to start thinking about my life and what I got to do and what's next. But how can parents start to calm those fears and get that anxiety to kind of start calming down for their children, to help support them through this process, because not every child is going to go to college. So how do I support you in that? So we have different options. We have college, we have don't go to college, but even before that, to see whether or not which one is the best fit for you, there are different things that we can do. There's shadowing, there's different programs. So can you talk to me about the importance of looking for those different programs and how a parent can start choosing them or looking at them with their child to see, okay, let's see if we should try this program out to figure out what will be the best way to support you.
Okay. So with this one, it's loaded. There's so much we can talk about with this one.
Right.
In clinic, one of the questions I asked, starting out from very little, starting out when they're about 5, I asked this question, the famous question: what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah, it's a weighted question. Kids are like, a teacher, a doctor. Well, they have all these ideas, but when you're in high school, that question becomes a little more real. You're like, I don't know what I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so parents, there's peer pressure on the parent side too. It's, oh, your son's a senior. What are they doing? What are they doing? So even as parents, we can push some of our anxieties about what is my child going to do. We don't want our child to be a failure, in our minds looking at other people. And so we can transfer all that pressure onto them, and then they have no idea because they haven't been prepped, so to speak. So I like asking in clinic just to get their minds rolling. And then in high school, I start to talk about it a little bit differently. I say, well, what are you good at? And so that's even how I approach finding a career for myself. I said, well, what am I good at? And, I realized for me that I was good at science, but I didn't really like science. I was really good at math. Well, I love math, but I wasn't that good in it. So, I had to figure out, well, what can I do? I knew I wanted to help people, but do I want to be a nurse? I enjoy educating. Do I want to be a teacher? And then in the end, I found a career that worked for me. And I could combine the science with the helping people. And so I would encourage you to just start with your child. Number one, what are you good at? What can you see yourself doing most days? It may not be a college kind of route. It may be, I really like real estate, or I like decorating, or I like cooking. You can be a chef. You can be a mechanic. What does your child like to do? Do they want to own their own business? You say, I don't want to work for anybody. That's okay. You don't have to, but you got to have a plan. Well, what type of business would you want to own? And so just having that conversation of first, what do you like and what are you good at? And those should meet, right? So just because I like to sing, I don't sing well. I should not try to go be a Beyonce. It's just not going to happen. Have realistic expectations and goals for your child too. And so picking a good fit for them. And if you have a fit for them, let's say they say, I want to go into being a mechanic. Well, find out if your local high school has a program. Some schools have programs where they can earn certain, classes and degrees before they even graduate high school. Some schools, you can earn an associate's degree in high school. And that'll kind of push them a little bit forward.
I love that.
Talking about this topic. So you can ask me more questions and I can keep elaborating. So I'll pause.
Yeah, because so even outside of high school, so because before we even get to college, not college, the one thing that you talked about, okay, let's pick the high school. But if a kid doesn't get into the high school, or maybe they find out a little bit later what they want to do, then there are summer programs. Because I know you and I both kind of talked about different summer programs that help you, that gives you exposure to things that you may not have known were out there. So how can parents find those summer programs? Because say my child finds out 10th grade, 11th grade that they really like, medicine. They're thinking about being a doctor. They may not shadow a doctor just yet, but maybe there's a summer program that is for students who are interested, like those high school students that are interested in medicine, to give them kind of an idea of what it's going to look like. How can parents find those types of programs?
So Google is your friend. Okay. So if your child is interested in, I'll just say engineering, you can type in engineering summer programs, and then put a local university. you can do that as well. So I'll even tell you my journey. I was first introduced to summer programs in the 8th grade. I happened to have a teacher who looked like me, one of the very few ones I had in my middle school. And she tapped me on the shoulder essentially and said, hey, look into this program. It was a pre-engineering program at the University of South Carolina, Columbia. I wasn't interested in engineering, but I'm like, sure, so, I'll give it a go. And what that did for me is open up my eyes to other programs. So the years after that, I said, okay, well, I don't want to be an engineer, but what else is out there? I knew I kind of maybe sciencey medicine. And so I was able to do each summer. I can't tell you when I did them, but I know I've done SAT prep programs. I did one at Clemson. I know I went to Furman. Just pre-college camps. I did a pre-nursing camp at MUSC one summer. And then even after I got out of high school, I continued that pattern. I was always looking for a program to do during the summertime. A lot of these programs, believe it or not, are free, and they'll even give you a stipend if you come. So it was a win-win for me. I did in college one summer, I did a pre-med program. I got to go to Columbia University in New York City. Another summer, I did summer research at Stanford. And then every summer I would just be sitting there thinking, what am I going to do next year? The summer after that one, I said, I want to travel abroad. So I found scholarships through my school. And I actually did a program called Semester at Sea. And I got to earn college credits during the summertime. And I traveled to 9 countries via ship all summer. So just that one teacher telling me about a pre-engineering program, it just opened the door and I just never stopped. So there are so many programs out there. It doesn't have to be necessarily something your child thinks they would be interested in, but give it a go. So a 1 or 2 week program could just make a world of difference and spark their interest in something that they never thought they would even like.
That's very interesting because I just knew you were going to say I went to that one program and it was amazing and it was what I wanted to do, and so I just kept going to that program. But to know that you said, I mean, it was okay, but it let me know what I really wasn't interested in. But it sparked in me to say, well, start looking for the things that you are interested in. And I love the fact of being able to get your experience, but to get paid for it. Is that not like great to do it?
Great.
And the other takeaway from it too, though, is one, being open to the experiences, but two, being willing to travel. So some parents are going to have to be open to say, okay, they don't have this program locally, so we may have to go somewhere else. But if that program is going to pay for you to come, and they're going to make sure that you're safe while you're there,
everything,
right? They're going to pay for you to live there, all of those things. Then I say, be open to the process, because that expands your horizons. What you're looking for may not be right in your hometown, might not even be in your state. But if you are willing to open your horizons and say, let's try it, then I think you will be able to see how many possibilities and opportunities that you actually have.
yes.
Now, for those students who are interested and they say, I do want to go to college, with that process, how do parents help them, one, find that college that they're looking for, and then when they get to those different colleges, what should they be looking for in that school?
So that's a good question. That's a loaded one too. And in general, I would say start with, what is your child's interest? If they want to be an engineer, they really feel like, I want to be an engineer. You don't want to go to a school that doesn't have an engineering program, right? Or if they want to be a nurse, they don't have a nursing program. So try to find a school that, even if they change their mind about what they think they want to do, that there are a lot of other good options that they can slide into, so to speak, right? So just first start with, what do you think you might want to do? Because if you say, I want to be a marine biologist, well, these schools may not be the best fit for you, even though that's where your friends are going. This does not have the program that you need. And a lot of people figure that out, unfortunately, too late. They accept the school because it's a big name school, but it doesn't have really the programs they're looking into. So that's step one. And then in general, I shouldn't even say step one, but don't forget about the financial aid assistance, because you can get a quality education sometimes in your home state. You don't have to go out of state. So always look for scholarships. So find a college that is not going to put a lot of financial burden on your student in the future. If you're not unable to pay for their education, that's something to consider, that, hey, we can go to this big school, but will it necessarily help my child reach their goals? You can go to a school and get a full scholarship and still meet your financial goals. So don't forget to kind of pick a school that would not set you up for financial burdens in the future too. So I think that's important to consider your local schools. And when you're looking at the campus, does your child have a car? Will they have a car? If this campus is, large, or can they stay on campus? Is this a good fit? Are there people who I feel like I can fit in with?
Mhm.
Some schools are known for, I shouldn't throw out an example, but there's some schools who are known for certain things like partying. And if that's just not your child's scene, or if you don't
Mhm.
think your child can handle a scene being in such a large city, that may not be a good fit. Just trying to set your child up for success. And I'll say this too. Some kids aren't quite ready. They know they want to go to college, but they aren't quite ready to commit to college. It's okay to take a gap year. There's no pressure to, I have to go to college right after high school. Some kids just need that year of maturity to just work for a year and then go back once they feel like they have a better game plan, or they want to do 1 year of staying at home with their parents and do a community college and transferring. Everybody's path is a little bit different. So if your child speaks up and say, "Mama, I'm just not ready to go to college this year. I really just want to take a break. High school was very difficult for me, and I don't think I'm mentally, emotionally prepared to just jump right into the college." So listen to what your child has to say. If they say, "I don't like this school," okay, they don't like the school. Not, "Well, you need to go here because 5 people in your family went here and this is the school for you." So
Mm.
what their interests are, if this is a good fit for them, and if they have their career of choice and slide into another career of choice, is that even an option at this school?
I know this is such a loaded thing because college is a lot. There is a lot that
Mhm.
goes into looking for what the college is going to be able to do and how it can support you. And I know we've talked a lot about parents, but even with the students, for them, and I can't think of the department, maybe you know, but as far as support, because one of the things that I didn't know when I went to college was this environment is here for you and they should be supporting you. And there are a lot of different resources that are there. And I know of other people that I talked to that also felt the same way. They because in high school you knew those people and you knew your teachers and all, and now you're at a college, you're in a totally different environment. You have no idea how these people are going to support you. But as a student, can you touch on a little bit maybe about how to make sure that you're going to get that support? And are you able to figure that out when you go to that college campus to do your first look or whatever? Is there a way for you to say, oh, okay, yeah, I think these people are going to support me, or these people are going to say, you're on your own, you have to figure it out, you're an adult now, which we all know we're adults, but this is still a different situation. So is there a way that students or even parents can look and see how well this university will support this individual student?
So there are, as a minority, there may be like a multicultural center or advisor that is particularly, specialized for minority students. So to see first, does your campus have something of that nature, or even a Black student union, for instance, or Hispanic student union? It's always nice to see if there's some type of support for your minority. And then for your major, it's always a good idea too. If you pretty much at that point know what you want to major in, you can go talk to the chair of that department and kind of get
Mm,
some feedback and say, "Hey, can you tell me what some of your recent students have done after graduation?" And that's a big one too. You can graduate, but if they're not getting into the type of programs that you're interested in, that could be a red flag. So you can go to school X and major in biology, but no one is going to medical school. And
mm,
there's one student who went to medical school in the past 5 years, and they may not have the best advice for you as far as getting you into medical school, or whether it might be vet school or pharmacy school. So if you already kind of have an idea of what you want to do, definitely go to that department and find out. Tell me more about your recent graduates, and see if they can tell you how they supported them to get to the next level.
great. Well, we have talked about a lot of different things, and we truly have taken the journey from birth all the way up to getting these children into college or wherever they want to do after high school. Are there any other tips or information that you would like to leave us with so that we can have everything that we need?
I did want to circle back around to one thing that I did not get to mention, but vaping, that's another big one.
Mm.
That's something I've seen in a lot of kids these days. Not as many kids are doing the traditional smoking cigarettes, but you'd be surprised how many kids are vaping and not telling their parents. So even with my teenagers, I have like 16 and up, I'll have the parents to step out of the room and then I ask them more questions. Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And I can give them some information. And I'm seeing a lot of children vaping. It's a sneaky little way the tobacco industry has gotten kids addicted to nicotine in a different way.
Mm.
And so check in with your kids to find out too, are they vaping, or if you see any odd contraptions and you're like, what is this?
Mm.
You might want to take a picture of it and ask, look on the internet and, try to figure out what is it that my child has. It could be something for, vaping or something else that you're just not aware of. So that is one thing I want to bring out that I missed from earlier. But overall, just for parents, it's a journey. You're not perfect. Every child is different. They're not going to follow the book. There is no book on parenting per se. I mean, you can read different books, but your child is not going to do everything the way another child does. And when you have different children, they have their own personalities. So you can't expect one very go-getter child to be the same as another child. They can be successful in their own right. You just
Mm.
want to support them where they are, and don't beat yourself up over if they didn't turn out the way you thought they should. They can still be a good human being and a productive citizen in life if they don't go the route that you thought they should. So just give yourself a little bit of grace and it's going to be all right.
Oh, I love that. I know you're speaking to us as a doctor, but you also have that mommy wisdom, and you're speaking to me as a mommy by saying, give yourself some grace.
Yes.
Because that comparison thing, oh, well, Johnny is doing this or Sarah's
Uh,
doing that. Listen, look at your little people and make sure that you are supporting them so that they can just be good humans. That's the thing that I love that you said. They're all going to be different. They're all going to take their different paths. And how can we support you along that journey to get you to where you need to be? But the ultimate goal is for you to be a good human and a good citizen that gives kindness to others,
yeah.
right? That's my goals. I want kind people. So I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us today. I have a feeling we're going to get you back in here to elaborate a little bit more on some of these other things, because our children are starting to experience some things that we have not seen.
Mhm.
And especially one of those, like you mentioned, the social media aspect of it, how we can be more involved in taking care of, kind of getting in there and watching what our children are doing and making sure that they are safe and they're not exposed to the wrong things at the wrong
Mhm.
time, all of
Mhm.
that. But I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom on how to support our children up until this point. And you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you soon, and I will come back shortly with some more information. Thank you so much, Dr. Williams.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.